we're going to be talking about my work at Kraft Foods. I worked for a little over 20 years at Kraft, starting in sales for Maxwell House Coffee, and then moving into promotion for about 8 years, and then from there I moved into, and this is with a bunch of different brands, and then I moved into the corporate area across all of Kraft Foods, putting together direct marketing programs for 150 plus brands for Kraft Foods.
What did your job entitle?
Well, title-wise, I was a sales manager for the beginning, and then I was a promotion manager, and then I was the director and manager of the corporate direct marketing. It entailed lots of different things depending on which job. When I was in the sales position, I was there for about 6 years in sales. I managed a team of people who would go out to both warehouses and large retail chains and to sell them products, which would ultimately get them promoted by the retailer to the consumers. My job was to make sure that when Maxwell House brought out new products, I made sure there was a place for them on the shelf, that they were properly priced, that they were shelved properly, and that no competitor could come and shove me aside on the shelf. Key was to have good relationships with the buyers at the wholesale and the retail level, because a lot of this is personal. There's a lot of personal relationships that you build up when you work in sales. When I went into the promotion and the marketing, which is when I went to the corporate office, there was developing marketing plans for my brands. And the big brands that I worked on all the different Maxwell House products. I worked on Jell-O, Cool Whip, worked on Kool-Aid, Crystal Light, Country Time, Pudding Pops, lots of different businesses. And my job was to develop annual marketing plans, specifically sales promotion plans, promotions, anything from PR campaigns to couponing programs, special packs. From there, I went into the corporate direct marketing area, and there, what my job really entailed was to try to get closer to the consumer, develop databases of people who bought the product who I think might be able to buy more. Did a lot of work with the research people to try to figure out who they were. Did a lot of work with trying to get people the consumers to raise their hands so I could find out who they were so I could market to them later. So all throughout my career, I was doing different things at different times. And what's important to note is that through all these stages, I'm learning all the way through. One thing I try to impress on the students is you're not finished learning when you get a degree from St. Mary's. You have to, in fact, you got to even work harder at your education once you get out of the university, and that's what I was doing all throughout.
Okay, how hard is it to break into the industry?
How hard? It's probably less difficult to break into the sales industry. That's where I first started out. What I think is really required for a good salesperson is someone who's quite disciplined, obviously has a great deal of integrity, but also is enthusiastic about their products and just about business in general. And there's a lot of great salespeople that have never had college degrees, but I think at this point minimally you have to have a college degree to get into sales. As you start thinking about brand management and working up into more of the corporate areas, there I think minimally at this point you're going to need one would need a master's degree. I got an MBA in marketing, back in the mid-70s. There's kind of a glut of them right now, but back then there was fewer of us. So required right now would be a master's degree to get into more of the marketing side. I think what's really important, I'll reiterate this, is one's attitude toward learning and always coming up with new ideas for whoever they're working with, following the trends, reading the journals, and always looking for opportunities to grow their skill set.
Who can typically work at this job?
I think with 90% of all jobs in this country, anybody can. If they has a lot to do with the attitude that they have, and again, attitude, discipline, integrity, enthusiasm. That to me makes all the difference in the world. As I said before, as you get up, if you want to go into the marketing side of these corporations, though, you're going to need the credentials, which would be the master's degree in probably marketing. But there are other fields though too, with like marketing research, which is a great field to get into. In fact, one of the things, this is an aside, I would encourage SMU students to be looking at is this whole area of data information. It's a huge business, and now because of social media, there's so much more data out there. Um, um, Businesses are going to need smart people to figure out what all that data means. So I would encourage people that are interested in moving forward as I think about the whole data information. That's helped me out a lot when I was in corporate. So.
Do you see any growth in the industry?
Well, honestly, no, I don't. I think the whole idea is for mergers and acquisitions, and I think a lot of this, a lot of those roles are being compressed into fewer and fewer people, just for purposes of efficiency. Because you're also in a global market these days, and its efficiency is really key. I think the market will always need outstanding people, though. So, and that's what I always tell people. You know, if you can stand out, if you can differentiate yourself, if you're constantly learning and growing, and you're willing to be courageous enough to put an idea out there, you will be fine, and you will find a job. But if you're waiting for someone to find you out, it's not a growing field. You know, you gotta sparkle.
What are the demographics of workers in this profession?
There's no particular demographics. It's everybody. In fact, this profession works best when there are very broad demographics. I mean, I work best on teams that have very, very diverse types of people. And as you know, Heidi, I emphasize work on teams because the world needs lots of different people to get projects done, and not just basic demographics, but also just attitudes toward how they approach an assignment. So, broad demographics and just a lot of diversity in management styles and things.
What are the needed skills for this profession?
Again, varies based on what it is. I will tell you about my last profession, which is sort of the highest level of skill set, which is you needed to really understand all of and this is when I was working with database management, working across the board with all Kraft foods. I had to dig deep into my sales promotion time because I was really a salesperson for Kraft. I was a person that was selling all these 150 different brands on why they should come together to work with their sister brands to promote to a similar target. So I had to use my sales. I had to use my marketing research background because I had to figure out, okay, who am I going to go to target-wise? And also set up all the research to make sure that at the end of the day, when I ran a program, did it work or didn't it work? And I shouldn't say didn't. Programs always work and they always don't work. The key is whether or not you can find enough people that are making it work to make it bigger, so you can make it work that much better. You need a good sense of just how consumers buy, so you need to understand the marketing mix and target segments. Bottom line, what you really also need is discipline and knowing how to work with others, and have a sense of the goal, which is, in this case, it was we were really driving to make Kraft the premier food company in the country, and I think we did that, and I was partly responsible for that.
Do you have any advice for people trying to break into this profession?
Read, study, be inquisitive, ask questions. The world is not going to knock on your door. It ain't going to happen. You have to put yourself out there. Any employer is looking for a certain spark. We talked about this in class as well. In the same way that advertisement has to get above the noise level, a prospective employee has to get above the noise level as well. And this is why when you start writing your resumes, there has to be something in there about with a wow. What is unique about this person? You have to differentiate yourself and make yourself a wow. So that's, push yourself. There's jobs out there, but you got to push yourself.
How many hours a week did you work?
I'll be honest, when I was in the sales business, I usually knocked off on Friday afternoon. So it was a little less difficult on sales. But when I was in more the corporate office, I worked until the job was done. I mean, if I had to work weekends, I worked weekends. If I had to work, and I've done this, if I had to work 18-hour days, I would work 18-hour days just to get the work done. it ebbs and flows. I've always been lucky to work with managers, people, and supervisors who, if I needed the best advice that a boss ever gave me, he said, we don't pay for hours, we pay for people. So make sure that you, when you find your job, you find a boss who says that, because if you need to take time, you take time. If you need to do extra work, you do extra work. You don't punch the clock on these businesses and the kind of work that I did. If you felt you had to punch the clock on my kind of business, you wouldn't be a success.
How stressful was your work environment?
I think people sometimes choose how much stress they take too, how much they take on. I can tell you that there were stressful times, but overall it wasn't stressful. I think it's more stressful these days because of the, back as I was moving in, when I was moving up, General Foods is where I started, and then was merged with Kraft. But General Foods was its own entity and had its own sold its own stock on the New York Stock Exchange, and the financial folks weren't as demanding as they are now. I think right now it's much more stressful because of what the kind of demands of Wall Street are making on all these companies. So I think it's more stressful. It wasn't so bad for me.
What was the hardest part of your job?
I think the hardest part of any job is when you're dealing with people that have hidden agendas. I go back to teamwork. The tough part is when you can't trust somebody in the team, or that they're not dependable, or else they're working against a different agenda than you. That's the hard parts, I think, in any kind of work. I don't mind. I never minded the challenge. It was kind of goal oriented. It was always fun to try to beat the numbers that you were sort of put in front of you by the business people. But the toughest part is when you and this is what sort of and there's always going to be politics, but it's important within teams that everybody knows, what the rules are and how the game's being played. It's tough when it isn't. So.
How did you prepare for this job?
I prepared well. It's throughout the whole thing. I'm inquisitive. I'm curious. If I find an article on a topic that I think has maybe some relevancy to a brand that I was working on, I would dig into it. I think curiosity makes a huge amount of difference for the success of businesses. And just staying enthusiastic and staying engaged. So I prepare by being engaged. I was never finished with my work, and you never can tell. You never can tell where ideas come from either. So when you're walking along or doing anything, there's some ideas that will come to you, maybe even on a different kind of category that can have some relationship, to an entirely different category. It's just to keep yourself open and talk. Feel free to talk.
What do you think is the most important quality to have in this profession?
What do you think it is? I'm just listening to me.
Creativity, the ability to work in a team.
Yep.
Is that what you would say?
Work on team, creativity, enthusiasm, discipline, integrity, enthusiasm. Yep, those are the keys. And that works for everything. Yeah. Make a difference. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Should we do it now officially? Or no?